Yo, so what's up, family? Happy Monday. Man, we are at the last week, before the last week of school. I don't know how I feel about that right now, man, but today's lesson is going to be very important, and I hope all of you guys, watch the video. But if you don't, it's always here, man. Week 12, day one, we're talking about area and circumference of a circle, which some people might say, well, that's a seventh grade standard, but I've seen a lot of it in sixth grade. I remember teaching it in sixth grade, years ago. But anyway, it's going to be, kind of a lengthy process because it's a lot that goes into it. So here you see that we have the radius, right? And so the radius extends from the center just halfway. The radius is always half of the diameter. The diameter extends from one end of the circle to the other end through the center. So it doesn't matter where it is, it can extend either way from this center all the way through from end to end. So the diameter goes all the way across. So you have to be mindful of what you're looking at, right? So you have the radius that is half, it's always half of the diameter. And then you have the diameter, which is double or twice the radius. So you have to remember that, and you're going to see that later on when we start, talking about actual like formulas, right? So here we have a semicircle. A semicircle is pretty much half. It's half of the circle. It doesn't come all the way back around. It's only half of the circle. So the same thing applies when you're finding the area or the circumference of a semicircle. You just have to remember that the same concept applies with all of the formulas with the semicircle, but you have to take it and divide it by 2. All right, so let's, since the first question is asking about the circumference, let's go ahead and write the circumference formula down. So we'll see C typically equals, right, C for circumference, 2 times pi, and pi is like this really big gigantic number, but it usually is just 3.14, right? Because it's a lot more numbers than that, but pi typically is 3 and 14 hundredths, something 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 until infinity, or it could be 22 over 7, right? 22 over 7 can also be pi, but we're just going to work with pi as 3.14. So let's go ahead and put that in parentheses, 3.14. And then, so you have 2 times pi times the radius, okay? So we see here, that's the radius. So whatever this number is, you have, this is the circumference. And we know the circumference is just really like the perimeter. It is the distance around the circle. That's what the circumference is. It's the distance around the circle. But this is the formula that we use. So you could essentially use your calculator, or you could just do the math. So let's take a look at number 1. And number 1 says, what is the circumference of a circle with a radius of 12? All right, so we have 2 times pi times the radius, right? And so that's simply, we'll do 2 times 12, because multiplication is interchangeable. So you could do 2 times the radius, which is 2 times 12 is 24. And then we could do 3.14 times 24. So again, you could use a calculator, but I'm just going to do it right here. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. I'm not worrying about my decimal point yet. 2 times 4 is 8. We know we have a placeholder right there. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Then we add it. 6, 13, 5, 7. Bring our decimal point down because there's 2 spaces, so that looks like 7536. And we see that as letter C. So that is letter C. All right. So again, a lot of math involved in this, but really just plugging it into the formula. All right. So number 2, find the circumference of the circle when the radius is 6 inches. Okay. So we know that it is 2 times the radius, or 2 times pi. So 2 times the radius in this case will be 12, and then 12 times 3.14. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to do 3.14 times 12. I hope you guys are doing good. I don't even think I asked you guys how you're doing, but anyway. So that's 8, that's 2, that's 6, that's 4, 1, 3. So that's going to be 8, 6, 7, 3. 3768. Up, and we see that 3768 is letter A. Okay, and again, I strongly encourage you scholars to do the math, right? Like, do it and then do it again, right? Don't just look at the video and copy the answers, or go through and select the wrong answers and then get the right answers and then go back and do the right answers. I want you to learn this. Like, I want you to get this down. Okay? All right. So now we're on to number 3, and it's talking about the area. The area of a circle. And just like anything that we learned about area in our first unit with geometry, we know that the area covers the distance inside. It's what's inside. So the area is the same thing of a circle. It is always measured in units squared, just like we talked about, but it is also the amount of space that is inside of the circle, right? So it's what's inside of it, that's the area, okay? And it's always measured in units squared. So when we think about area, we have the same formula. Area equals, and then, well, it's a different formula, but it's going to be pi, and in this case, again, it's 3.14 times the radius squared, okay? So with the circumference, you're just multiplying it by the radius, whatever the radius is, but in the area, you're not doubling, I apologize. You are squaring the radius. You have to square it, which means you're going to multiply it by itself, okay? All right, everybody got that? Good. All right, so let's look at number 3, because you're going to have to recall this for that last question that kind of like combines all of this stuff, the bonus question. I want you guys to really practice that one, okay? So number 3 says, find the area of the circle when the radius is 7 meters. So we know that the area formula is pi times radius squared, so we know that 7 times 7 is 49, and then we have 3.14 times 49, okay? 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 1 is 9, 12. 27, 28. 16, placeholder. 4, 5. 12. Add it all up. 6, 8, 13, 5, 1. 2 decimal places. 153 and 86 hundredths meters squared. So that is letter A. That is letter A. All right. Let's see. Squeeze number 4 in here. Okay. So it says, which statement shows how to compute the area of a circle with a radius of 4 feet? The area of a with the radius of 4 feet. So we know that we have to do what with the radius? Perfect. Hopefully you guys said squared, right? And so since we know that it is 4, we have to look at pi times 4 squared. It wouldn't be 2 squared because that's not the radius. It wouldn't be 8 squared because that is double the radius. And it wouldn't be 16, even though that's what it is. But you see that it says 6. Oh, I'm just pointing. It says here, and we can barely see that for whatever reason, 16 squared. So we are not doing 16 squared. We're doing 4 squared, which is letter A. So number 4 is letter A. All right. Okay. Number 5. It says calculate the circumference of the circle. Round your answer to 1 decimal place. Okay, so the circumference, remember circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. Okay, so we've been given a radius of 8, so we can do 2 times pi, right, which is going to be 3.14 times 2. That's going to be 8. That's going to be 2. That's going to be 6. So we know that that is going to be 6 and 2800ths every time for the circumference. And then we just times it by whatever the radius is, which is 8. Okay, so that's going to be 4, 6, 16, and 6 is 22. And 48, 49, 50. 50 and 24 hundredths. Oh, and it says round it up to the nearest to the 1 decimal place. So they rounded it up. That's why that answer is 50 and 3, which is letter A. Okay? So when we don't see our answer, we can't panic. We just have to make sure that we are doing it the way they want us to do it. All right? All right, and again, you can go back and look at this anytime you need to if you think I'm going too fast in the video, but just remember to plug the information in the formula. All right? Number 6, family number 6. And again, for all of us that's watching it, I need you guys to think about like what we want to do for that last week. How do we want to celebrate? A lot of us said watch a movie. A lot of us said have our food party where we just bring our own food to the, Zoom meeting. But anyway, back to math. If the diameter of a circle is 44 inches, what is its radius? So we think about diameter, right? So we know diameter is, like we said, the center of a circle that goes from end to end of the circle. That's the diameter. This whole thing is the diameter, right? And if it is 44 inches, right, then it's asking us to find the radius, and we know that radius is always half of the diameter. Then we're just going to split this in 2, and we know half of 44 equals 22. So that one is C. C. Pretty simple, right? Number 7. Find the circumference of the circle to the nearest tenth. So the circumference again. So here we are. We have the circumference formula, 2 times pi times r, right? So that means we can take this 6 and 2800ths because we know that that's the same. So this is number 7. Number 7. So we have 6 and 2800ths, and then we're going to times that by 28. Okay? So 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 2 is 16, and 6 is 22. 8 times 6 is 54. 6 times 8 is 48. 48, 49, 50, so 50 and 24. And then we go placeholder, and then we have 16 again, and then we have 5, and then we have 12. 4, 8, 5, 7, 1. And then it says raise it to the nearest tenth. So we have 175 and 84 hundredths. And really that's, that's the only one that makes sense according to our answer. So we're going to call that one letter B. Let me make sure I did that right, because I make mistakes all the time. Yep. Okay, we're perfect. Moving on. It's okay to make mistakes, guys. We just got to make sure that we learn from them. Life lesson. Number 8. Be the change we want to see in the world, right? All right. Find more circumference, Mr. B. Shoot, I thought I mixed them up. Anyway. Find the circumference of a circle if the diameter is 14 centimeters. So remember, we just talked about diameter right there. And what do we have to do to find the radius? So if the diameter is 14, we have to divide it by 2. So 14 divided by 2 equals 7. And now we're going to do our regular problem. So we have 6 and 2800ths, 6 and 2800ths. And again, 6 and 28 comes from this right here, 3.14 times 2, because that's the formula that we're using for circumference. This is the circumference formula, right? See, geometry is all about formulas, you guys. We got to know the formula process, right? And so 6 and 28 times 7. That's going to be 56. And that's going to be 19, and that's going to be 42, 43. And we're done. 4396 and 4396. That is letter B. Super easy, you guys. Super, super, super easy. Number 9. Number 9. And if you know somebody, because I can tell a lot of people don't be watching these videos, and that's okay. I get it. We're tired. But you got to watch the videos, man. That's the only way you're going to get better. All right. So what is the area of the circle? The diameter. Area now. Remember, area is something different. Hopefully you can write the area formula down without redrawing. Yeah, probably not. But anyway, just write it down. So we know we're going to have the area is pi times the radius squared. Okay, that is the area formula. Pi times radius squared. So if we have the circle, it's giving us a diameter. So what is the first thing we have to do? Hopefully you guys are saying divided by 2, because we have to find the half of it to get to the radius, right? So half of 10 is 5. So now we just say, okay, they want the area. So we're going to do 3.14. Now it says radius squared. And so remember we learned about squaring. It is not 5 times 2. It is 5 times 5, right? Remember radius or area. Remember when you're squaring a number, it's always the number times itself. So we're going to do 5 times 5, which is 25, right? And now we're going to times that by 3.14. And that's going to be 20. That's going to be 7, 15, placeholder. Excuse me, 8, 3, 2, 6. 0, 15, 7, 8, 7. 2 decimal places, 7850. 7850. And we see that as letter B. Letter B. Super easy. All right, now for number 10, we have to do everything that we just learned, right? We have to put it all together. So for the question, you know, it's going to say which is the radius. You check that one. Remember, you have to check it in the same order. So it says radius, and then we say, well, the radius is half of 32. So we're going to check that first box because that's the radius. Okay, diameter is going to be 32 because that extends all the way across. Now we have to do the area, which is going to be half. The area is half of the radius, so we have to do 3.14 times, and then half of 32 is 16, right? But then we have to do 16 squared, right? So that's going to take a lot. You have to do 16 squared. So 16 times 16 is 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 6, 9, and 6 is 15. 256. So now we have this big math problem of 256. So we have to do 3 times. And since I'm on my phone, I have to kind of do the math right now. I can't just do it on my calculator. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 2 is 8. 6 times 3 is 18. Placeholder here. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. Another set of placeholders. And then we do 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And so that's going to be 4. That's going to be 8. And that's going to be 15. And 8 is 23. 7, 8, 9, 10. 6, 7, 8. And then we put our 2 decimal point right there, and we see 803.84, 803.84, and we check that one for the area. And then process of elimination, you know, that we do. Process of elimination. We don't have to do the circumference. You could do it if you wanted to, but it's the last answer, which is going to be circumference in the letter column of B. But let's just do it anyway. Okay, let's just do it anyway. And we're almost done with the video, almost done with the questions. So circumference, remember the circumference formula is 2 times pi times the radius, 2 times pi times the radius. So we know that pi times 2 is going to give us 6 and 2800ths. 6 and 2800ths. And then the radius is 16. So times it by 16. 6 times 8 is 48. 12 and 6 is 16. 36 plus 1 is 37. 8, 2, 6, 8, 14, 9, 10, 6, 9, 10, 148 hundredths. And that's the last one, which is B. So we did it, we did the math and it came out right. So all of those answers are correct. All right, now here we have this composite figure. I love composite figures. Remember, we used to do those a lot in our first unit. So it says, find the area of the composite shape shown below. So the first thing we're going to do real quick is we're going to get the rectangle out of the way, right? Because it looks like this. This is how it looks. And then we have, so we have the semicircle, the half circle. Remember we talked about that semicircle right there, right? So we have here 5, and then we have 8. And so we know 8 times 5 is 40, right? And so this 8 is the same thing. This is 8, right? Because the other side of it is 8. So we know that the diameter of this circle is 8, okay? And so it says find the area. Find the area. And we know that the area formula is pi times radius squared. Pi times radius squared. But what do we have to do? Because we have a semicircle. Hopefully you say we have to divide it by 2, right? We have to divide it by 2. So we have pi times the radius squared divided by 2, okay? So then we're going to add that to 40 when we're done. So let's circle 40 to keep it to the side. Now let's do pi, which is 3.14, times the radius squared. So we know that the radius is half. So half of 8 is 4, and then we square it. Half of 8 is 4, and then 4 squared is 16. And I think we did that already. Didn't we do 3.14 times 16? Yep. Nope. No, we didn't. Poop. Okay, that's fine. 3.14 times 16. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 2 is 8. And then that is 6 times 3 is 18. That's 4, and that's 1, and that's 4. Now we have 4, and we have 12, and we have 10, and then we have 4, 5, 6, 60, and 24. But are we done yet? Are we done yet? No, because we have to take this and divide it by 2. Because if this was a circle over here, then we could just add this to 40. But we can't. So now we have to take this and divide it by 2. So we know that half of 24 is 12. And then half of 60 is 30. Okay? Now we take this and add it to 40. Because the 40 is what the rectangle is, right? And that's going to be 12, and then that's going to be 0, and that's going to be 7. 70 and 12. Okay. Let me make sure we did that right. So 40 was that. 8 times 5 is 40, and then a half of the circle. Yes. So that should be B. That should be B. When you do it, it will be B because I didn't add the other part to it. So I'm going to change that right now. And that's it. So, yeah, man, easy peasy, right? So Thursday and Friday's lessons are going to be like introduction to kind of fourth grade. Nope, not going back to fourth grade, to seventh grade. So stay tuned for that. But I hope to see you all in our Zoom meetings and preparing for our last week of school. So until then, man, remember that I love you. Peace.